Okay? I'll try and stay still. So yeah, I mean, I think that the devil works in ways to try and frustrate you out of things, to make it too difficult. So, writing notes for the day, doing Bible readings for the day, flipping through the Bible, using the magnifier, trying to juggle all those things, get out here. Sometimes things can become a little bit hard and you just feel like throwing your hands up in the air and saying, it's a little bit hard. I can only begin to feel the frustration that Paul and Vivian must have, because 2 times their flights to Hobart have been cancelled. So the opportunity to see a loved son, to see grandchildren, they're gone. There's frustration. The devil comes to rob, steal, and destroy, but Jesus has come to give life and life abundant. My word says that God's word will go out and won't return void without achieving what its purpose is. I pray that today that the word God has given me will go out and will achieve its purpose and will come back. So by achieving its purpose. So I'm just flicking through a few things here, getting myself sorted out. And then I'm going to ask Gail if she could come out and do a bit of reading for me, just to, I guess, to set a scene, and then I'll get into the word. So if Gail could come up, that would be great. Thank you.
A 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not approach you. For you have made the Lord my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. Psalm 91, verses 7 and 9. Do we even stop to consider what God is saying to us in verse 7? Do we have the courage to trust God's word enough to believe he means this literally? Is it possible for this to be true and for us to miss out on these promises? Jesus answers the last question in Luke 4:27. There were many lepers in Israel in the time of Elisha, the prophet, and none of them was cleansed. Only Naaman, the Syrian, was healed when he obeyed in faith. Not everyone will receive the benefits of this promise in Psalm 91. Only those who believe God and hold fast to his promises will profit. Nonetheless, it is available. God knew there would be times when we would hear so many negative reports, see so many needs, and encounter so much danger around us, we would feel overwhelmed. That is why he warned us ahead of time that thousands will be falling all around us. He did not want us to be caught off guard. We can either choose to run to his shelter or so. But at that point we have a choice to make. The ball is then in our court. We can either choose to run to his shelter in faith and the storm will not approach us, or we can passively live our lives the way the world does, not realising there is something we can do about it.
Thank you. So that, I guess, sets the scene for where we are today. During the week, we were doing a bit of channel surfing or hopping around looking for something to watch on the TV, and there was a program coming up on the ABC. It was, I think, called Stan Grant's 1+1. And I thought perhaps that might be interesting to watch and to listen to. And there was an interview, an interview or conversation with Tim Minchin. Now, Tim Minchin, some of you may have heard of him, some may not, but Tim is would be an actor in theatre. He's a stand-up comedian, he's a musician, he's a composer. He's very well skilled in those areas that he is engaged in. And Stan Grant is he's a journalist who I've seen, well no, I haven't seen very much of him at all. I know has been on SBS for many years, and now he's on ABC. He's a political commentator and social commentator, a very well-respected person in the media. And so they were going to have this interview because, a conversation, because interviews these days aren't really interviews, they're more of a conversation to find out something. And I thought one really interesting thing at the start of the conversation was Stan Grant said to Tim Minchin, "Who do you say you are?" And then it went on from there. And that fed in really well into where I wanted to talk about today, because I'd already determined what I wanted to talk about today. And so to set the scene on there, we've got a Bible reading in Matthew chapter 16, verses 13 to 20. This is Jesus. He asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the other prophets." But he said to them, "Who do you say that I am?" Then Simon Peter answered on behalf of the other, and his usual enthusiasm, he just jumped up and blurted out, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." But I just want to, in line with that conversation with Stan Grant and Tim Minchin, pose a question. What if Peter had have said to Jesus, "Who do you say you are?" I guess reversing the question, Jesus is asking, "Who do you say I am?" But saying to Jesus, "Who do you say you are?" And in there is where I want to start with where we are today. Who does Jesus say that he is? In the Gospel of John, there's 7 I am statements, and they're in seven places Jesus gives some clues or very strong statements about who he is. And I just want to have a look at these statements about who Jesus says he is, because that gives us the understanding of who it is that we're following. Yes, we know he is the Son of God. Yes, we know he has saved us. But as Gail read out in the passage today, or from that book today, there is a matter of believing and the matter of grabbing hold of it. Jesus has some things that he has available for us, and that's in his character that's available to believers. But we need, the balls in our court, as the book said, we have to take hold of them, we have to believe them. So what I want to do is look at who does Jesus say he is, that we can have a much better understanding of what he has done, what is available to us, so that when the devil does come to rob, steal and destroy, that we can have abundant life, because there is these promises available to us in Jesus. So the first one, I'm not going to flick through into the I'm not going to do all of the Bible readings, but I'm going to reference them so that if you're taking notes, you can have a look at it, or look it up or come and see me later. Jesus says in John chapter 8, verse 12, sorry. John chapter 6, verses in 28 to 35. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. When he says this, he's addressing Jews. He's addressing people who had seen him feed 5,000 people with the bread and fish. And he was addressing people who hadn't seen the truth of who he is through that miracle. When you look in context back in the Old Testament, when God led the people out of Israel, he provided manna from heaven on a daily basis. The manna from heaven was eaten. It kept the people of Israel alive. They couldn't store it. It was temporary. They had to use it. They had to eat it to get the benefits from it. So it couldn't be kept for the next day. It had to be eaten on the spot there and then, and that sustained them until the next day. Jesus is now saying, I am the bread of life. And he's not a temporary bread. He is eternal bread. He gives us all of the sustenance we need to live our lives. As Gail was talking last week, when she was talking about preparing for a journey, she was talking about the things that you need to take, the resources that you need to take. And in there she referenced too that Jesus is the bread of life. He provides us all things that we need on the journey. So that's one of the things that Jesus says he is. He's the bread of life. In John chapter 8, verse 12, he says, I am the light of the world. And looking back into the Old Testament, when God led the people of Israel out of Egypt, he led them by a pillar of fire. A leader cannot lead in the dark. A leader leads in the light. I understand that when Jesus made the statement that it was during the Feast of the Tabernacles, and in Jerusalem, on the hills above the town, they built massive fires that would light up the city at night time in memory of what had happened. And that was the setting where Jesus says, I am the light of the world. So, yes, in John 1, 4 to 14, it tells us that the world is a lost and a hopeless place. Light must enter. You can't see or lead in darkness. In Exodus 13 and 14, God leads his people by a pillar of light. And that's when he saved the people from Egypt. So Jesus is saying he's the light of the world. So he will lead us, he will guide us, and he will dispel darkness with his light. In John chapter 10, verses 1 to 18, Jesus says, I am the door or the gate, and I'm the good shepherd. In this setting, he's actually talking to Pharisees. And the Pharisees were the religious leaders of the day in Israel. And if you can picture the door or the gate, it allows the shepherd a way to bring the sheep in. So Jesus is saying he is the gate or the door, so it's only through him that the sheep, us, can enter into him. Whilst it's also the only way in, for us, it's a two-way gate. We can choose to walk out the gate, to walk out from under the protection of the Good Shepherd. Not advisable, but we are free to do that. We've got a free will to be able to do that. So Jesus is the gate that allows us to enter. As the Good Shepherd, and at the time the Pharisees, they were very much involved in their own self-interest, prioritising themselves over the people. There was persecution. They set up rules to make it extremely difficult for people. They collected wealth through various taxes. And Jesus, they were shepherds of the people, but they weren't good shepherds. Jesus is saying, I'm the good shepherd. I am the one who will look after you. I will take care of you. You enter the gate through, enter the sheepfold through me, and I will look after you. He is the good shepherd. John chapter 11, verses 17 to 27. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Again, this is a word not about what he's able to give us, but about who he is. Moses gave bread, but Jesus is bread. Jesus doesn't just reflect light, he is light. The first Adam chose sin, which brought about death and decay. Jesus, as the second Adam, reversed that. He reversed the sin of the first Adam, and he brought about life and restoration. And the final is, John 14:6, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus contrasts himself with the ways in the Old Testament which the people were able to connect with God. So that was a process of sacrifices, the temple, the curtain, the separation, the tabernacle. All of those things were temporary and had to be repeated at regular intervals to allow the people to access God or to be with God. Jesus is saying he is the way, and he has done that permanently, once for all. So all of those things that were temporary in the Old Testament, he's saying that I have replaced them with who I am. And the final statement from John 15:1-6, and I will read that. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. Throughout the Old Testament, the vine was used as a symbol for Israel. And he talks of various times, or the Old Testament talks about various times about vines that don't bear fruit. And Jesus is saying that in him we can bear fruit. But it's also, as Gail was reading this morning from that book, we believe in him, we accept him, we have salvation. But there's more fruit that can be had as we accept who he is and what it is that he's done for us and what he has made available to us. So from that,